Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something. Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. Now, this video is a classic case of you get what you pay for. So, I went and bought this little rinky-dink camera that I was going to use to try to get an extra camera into on our video shoots with my wife's cooking channel, which is the La Ricetta Show. And so I bought this camera off of Amazon, and it's really cool, and it comes with a little shotgun microphone that sits over the top and plugs in the back. It's got an HDMI output, most importantly, so I can monitor what I'm recording. And most importantly, it has a remote control. Now, only like the little cheapy cameras or the super duper expensive cameras have a remote control. And this camera we were going to use as like an overhead camera that points straight down to give us an overhead shot of whatever food that Tammy's preparing. And I was going over to my buddy's house this morning to help him pour a concrete slab, so I thought, you know what, I charged the battery up, I'll take this and do a running gun with it. Well, you know, as I say in my channel, you never know, you know, what we're going to be doing next, and you're not too careful, you might learn something. Well, I learned something today, and that's to make sure that you check the battery that came with this little rinky-dink camera and that goes in this microphone and make sure it's not dead. And it was dead. So the whole video that I shot over at his house had no audio. So I'm going to have to do an overdub and maybe a picture-in-picture or something like that. So bear with me as I go. And this is not up to the standard of quality that my normal videos would have. And but, you know, it was just a trial run. And as it turns out, I met some guy that does the concrete, and, you know, they may want some video work done. So unfortunately, this video is not going to be a good sales pitch, but that's okay. You can look at my other ones. And, all right, let's get started. So our day starts at about 5:30, 6 a.m. And coffee, of course, is the most important thing that early in the morning. So I have 1 cup for in the house and 1 cup to take with me. So that'll get me going. And then I can always make more when I get back. So in this clip, it's still dark outside, and but not as dark as this camera would lead you to believe. So the sun hasn't quite risen yet, but it wasn't as dark as it looks like in the video clip there. And that's what you get with a $60 HD video camera. But I'm out here getting ready to get my muck boots on and head over to my buddy's house and get ready to get started, because at this point we understand the truck is coming at between 7 and 7:30 a.m. So now that I'm over there, basically what we're going to do is we're going to set our plastic in to where the forms are, and then we're going to go ahead and start laying out the wire. That's going to be reinforcement in the concrete, so it'll help keep it strong so it won't crack. So here I've pretty much just laid the camera on the back of the tailgate of the truck and pointed it in the general direction of where we're working. And as you can see, we're laying out the plastic now and spreading it out, because he's going to be putting basically a meat locker on there, a meat freezer. So we want to put plastic vapor barrier down on the ground so that the moisture from the ground doesn't wick up through the concrete. Contrary to popular belief, concrete is very porous. It's like a sponge. So you either have to seal it really good, or especially underground, you want to put like a vapor barrier down so that the water from the ground or dampness doesn't eke up through it. And that can eventually damage the slab too. So now once we have the plastic all down and have it spread out real nice over top of our gravel bed that we put down before we laid our forms up, we need to go ahead and cut our reinforcing wire. Now, the cool thing about being around a farm is you have lots of this what's called cattle panel. And what it is it's like wire that has little, it's like screen, but it's like big 4-inch, squares in it. And you put them up alongside the fence, and it's stronger than, say, chicken wire or something like that. But it also works wonders for concrete because it's way better than the rolled wire screen or wire mesh that you can put down. And then also, it's about as good as rebar. So in here we're cutting it to the size, and then we'll lay it in place. And here we have my buddy's son playing Star Wars with his lightsabers and all that, and he's helping us too. And it's a bit breezy this morning, so the wind's trying to take our plastic and blow it up, but we're managing. We're getting the wire laid down, and then as we pour the concrete, we'll pull that wire up into the concrete to get it like about an inch or so above the deck, and that will make it really strengthen the slab a lot. And then there he is, kid's doing a little dance in the screen for us. But hey, you're only a kid once, right? I've done a lot crazier stuff than that. Now, in this section video here, you can see where we drilled into the existing building slab, and we hammered some rebar in there. And what that'll do is that'll help tie the two slabs together and make sure that they both stay at the same level. So as the ground moves, then the slab will move with it. They'll move together, and you don't end up like this, so you end up tripping when you walk from one slab to the other. So that's just a little trick I learned a long time ago, and it works like a champ. Now in this piece of video here, in this clip, the camera just suddenly started shooting in black and white. There's no setting on the camera that I know of that I could have accidentally hit to change it to black and white. So there's evidently there's something going on with this camera. So we're going to we'll be contacting Amazon about this and probably getting them to replace it. But anyhow, I'm setting the camera down. The truck ended up showing up about 8:30. So I'm just going to set the camera down on the tailgate here in the hopes of shooting what we're going to be doing, pouring the slab. The truck's pulling up, but actually we got a pretty good little lesson on how these things work. We always I always referred to them as a KitchenAid concrete company because they've basically got a mixer on the truck, and they bring everything out dry and they mix it and dole it out on site, and they just measure how much. They got a little meter on there that measures how much concrete that you goes through it, and it has the cement and the rock or the aggregate and then the water, and they also have this thing where they've got some patent pending coming on with a process where they can add color as they're mixing it, and you could pour the slab any color you want. So that was pretty neat. And in the next video clip here, I'll be panning around on the truck and you can see more about it. I really feel bad that the damn battery in the microphone was no good, because the driver himself was telling us about it, and it was pretty neat. So I'll do my best to reproduce what he did, but you know, not as near as good as what he said. So with this type of cement or concrete delivery system, you've got your aggregate or your rock in one tank, then you have your Portland cement in another, and then a water tank, and then it goes through like this tube with an auger screw thing with paddles, and it dispenses the right amount of aggregate or gravel and the right amount of the cement mix, and then adds water to it. And then as it goes through this little auger thing, it gets mixed, and by the time it comes out and comes down the chute, you have concrete. And they can adjust what they call the slump, which means how wet it is. You know, you can have a stiff concrete, like if you're pouring a curb or something that you need to form up, or you can have it more soupy so that it'll level itself out and it's easier to work with. Within reason, you can't put too much water in it, and because then you'll weaken the concrete. But this guy was really cool, and he went to explain about how all the different functions work on the truck and how they do it. And then they also have another tank on the back to where if you were pouring a sidewalk and let's say you wanted to color it, the big thing now is they do what's called stamping, and you'll pour the slab and then you'll stamp a pattern into it so it looks like laid stone or something. And to enhance the effect, you can add like a brown or a tan color to it, so it looks really cool. And it's like all the rage now with people with, you know, it used to be the exposed aggregate pea gravel sidewalks and all, and now they're going to this thing. So it's really kind of neat, and it looks good, and it's durable, and they have a patent pending on their process with this color, to where they add the color. Normally adding color is a pain in the behind, because you know you have to add this right amount of powder to the mix, and then you know you never know whether it's going to come out between batches, you know, is it dark or lighter or whatever. But they've come up with a way of doing it that works, and they're getting a patent on it. And so the cool thing is that they may want me to shoot a video for them on describing their process and that sort of thing. So if they don't look at this crappy video and say, no, I don't think so, but I gave them the videos to the La Racheta Show channel, which is the more, you know, higher production value, not run and gun. We got set lighting and all that kind of stuff, and we do it right. But you know, you don't want to take a, you know, $5,000 camera out here to record yourself pouring concrete, because you know, not in a run and gun scenario, because God help you if you get the camera dirty or messy or something. So. But anyway, so we're getting ready to pour. He's backing the truck in and getting it lined up, and the chute is extendable, which is really cool. You know, most of your regular trucks, you know, they have to hook sections of the chute on to make the, you know, you know, how far out you want to go with it. But these are really cool. So, and he's firing the truck up, and it's making all kind of really neat sounds. I'm really bummed that we didn't get the audio off of this, but you know, they have what they call little knockers, you know, on the sides of the containers that hold the cement to make sure that it flows, you know, it doesn't get stuck or clumped up or anything like that. It's really neat how that truck works. So we're getting our first bit of concrete going there, and he's kind of starting it towards the back, and he's going to let it pile up a little bit and spread it out, and then we're going to go in there and spread it and smooth it and get it roughly level, and then we'll use a screed board and go across to make a rough level across the form. This slab's roughly about 15.5 feet square, and so it's a relatively easy pour in that it's easy to screed because you can use a 16-foot board, and that gets your slab pretty darn level, and then we'll float it from there. So as we're pouring the slab, you can see we're kind of pushing it around with rakes and getting the concrete kind of roughly smoothed out a bit. But the one thing that's an interesting little trick that my son-in-law Mino taught me is when you're in there with your boots, sometimes the best way to do is just kick it around with your boot, and as long as the slump is not too low and it's not too dry, it's easy to just kick your foot and you can move a bunch of concrete, and that's especially helpful when you're screeding, because as you're screeding down, if you got a low spot, you can kick some concrete up as you're going. You don't have to stop and move the board back, move some concrete in, and then re-screed it. So pretty neat little trick he taught me there. We are starting to screed the slab just to get a kind of an idea of where we're at, as far as what any low spots that we have or anything. So we'll run that screed board across it from each side of the forms and lay it out, and it'll scrape off any high spots, and then it'll expose any low spots. And then what we're going to do is we're going to leave the screed board up against the wall of the existing building, and that gives us a sight line, and you can see that there's a low spot right to the right of that doorway that's blocked up, and we're going to have to push some more concrete up to get up close to that and level that out, because we don't want a low spot in our slab. And then the concrete guy, he's going to dole out some more concrete for us there, and then once we get it to where we think it's level or a little bit high, then we'll run that screed board across it, and it'll just level everything out. We're going to take and start from the building, and then we're going to start screeding our way back, and then from that point we will not touch that anymore. If it's screeded flat like we like it, and that part will be done, and we won't ever go back and disturb that, and we'll just keep working our way forward closer to the truck, and of course he'll have to move his truck eventually forward a little bit for us, but then that concrete will be done until we start floating it with the bull float. So we're doing pretty good here. We got it pretty much right, and it's just taking a gentle screed. Sometimes if you get it way too high, then it's hard to pull all that concrete away with the board. So it's a fine technique to get just the right amount of concrete down, so you're just skimming a little bit off the top, and it makes it real easy to use that screed board, especially when you're at about 16 feet. That's a lot of concrete to try and move. So now he's going to bring some more concrete out for us, and we're going to start on the next section of the slab. At this point, the slab's about almost half done, and then we're just going to keep working our way back and screeding some more and working our way back until finally we'll just have a little bit at the very end, so we know just how much extra we got to pour in there, because the whole good thing about one of these trucks is you only pay for what you use. Whereas if you order a 10-yard truck and it only takes 5 yards, you're dumping 5 yards of concrete somewhere. So that's a bit of an extreme example, but the object is to get as close to what you need as possible without a bunch of extra mess that you got to either dispose of or find a place to put it. So we did good. We got it very close without a lot of excess, and you can tell that It's coming along good. We're going to get to screeding a little more as we poured that concrete in and bring that screed board back, and you can see the slab starting to take shape. So now we're at the very last about 1.5 or 2 feet of the slab, and we've determined, that we're just a tiny bit short. So concrete guy's dumping just a tiny little bit more down in there, and we're kicking it around with our feet, and then we're going to screed it out, and then we'll step out of the forms, and once we step out of the forms, we won't be stepping back in until it's dry. So we're getting the screed board here, and we're running it across back and forth, and getting it out there towards the very, very outer edge of that slab. And by the time we're at about 4 to 6 inches from the end of the slab, we're just the tiniest bit short. So he's going to dump just the inchiest little bit more concrete in there, and then that's it. We just screed it out the rest of the way. We may have dumped like maybe a couple of cups of concrete, scraped over the side that was extra, and it was perfect. So it was a really good pour. It came in right at 4 yards, and the current price of the concrete, that runs about $500 when you factor in your taxes or whatever. And and the cool thing about these trucks is is the convenience. Concrete companies, your major ones with the big drum that rotates on the truck, well, that can hold up to like 10 cubic yards of wet concrete. And they don't really like dealing with consumers when all they're wanting to do is to pour a concrete sidewalk or something, maybe less than a yard or two, because it's just not worth them rolling that big truck for that. Whereas this guy, this is Valley Ridge Concrete, by the way, we call it a KitchenAid truck. KitchenAid concrete, because everything's on the truck. He can hold 10 yards just like a regular truck, but he doesn't have to stress or worry about it going to waste, because you only mix what you use, and you mix it right there at the job, and you pour it out, and all he's got is a couple of feet of chute and that auger to clean. Whereas a concrete truck, whether they sell you 5 yards, 3 yards, or 10 yards, the work is still the same to clean that big drum out. And it's just not worth it to them to roll a truck for less than 5 yards of concrete, and they will charge you extra. So that's where these guys have a niche business, because 99% of what consumers do, if they're pouring a sidewalk or a driveway or whatever, they're going to be doing it a few $100s at a time, money-wise. So 10 yards of concrete is like $1,000. So if you want to do your driveway, $300, $400, $500 at a time, you can do it, because you just form out that much of a slab and pour it, and then just work your way down the driveway. That's the way we're going to have to do it, because my driveway is 1,300 feet long. I mean, at best, I'm looking at 400 yards of concrete, and well over $100 a yard. That's a lot of scratch. So All right, so now we're going to use our good Canon camera here, and we're going to at least pick it up from here as to what we're doing. We've got our slab poured, and we're in the process of floating it. So we got a little ways to go yet with it to finish it out. I've still got to float it a couple of more times, but with the cooler temperatures, it's going to take a while to set up. So I'm just going to set the camera over here on the tailgate, and we'll see. Watch me float the slab. Alright, the last step of this process is to put a broom finish on this slab. Now, there's different kind of finishes depending on what you're going to do. Have you ever been in Walmart or Lowe's or something and they got that really super duper smooth finish? My workshop, for example, I have what's called a troweled finish, or machine troweled finish on there, and it's super duper smooth. But we don't want that here, so we're going to use this type of broom right here that's made specifically for that purpose. And they're kind of stiff bristles, and they'll kind of rough the surface up a little bit and put a nice pattern into it. And we'll have to take and, you know, wash the broom off every little bit or so often or something, because you'll get little balls of, you know, cement on there because it's set up, but it's not totally dry yet. So let's get started. Well, looks like our work here is done, at least for today. As you can see, we got a nice looking pretty slab there, I think. And I want to send some thanks out to Valley Ridge Concrete, and they were extremely helpful and patient, and I'll paste their contact information right here. So if you happen to be in my neck of the woods or my buddy's neck of the woods here, and you need some to do some concrete, and you're an avid do-it-yourselfer like ourselves, then call them up and they'll take good care of you. And by the way, Valley Ridge Concrete, do not use this video as a representation of my work. Look at the La Ricetta channel. I gave you the information for that. That's our good stuff. This is all run and gun, and you know, the purpose is to see the work, not necessarily the quality of the work. So anyway, thank you for watching. Feel free to comment. Please subscribe. Ring the little notification bell there so you'll get notified anytime we post new videos to MacGyver's Workshop. And also check out the other channel, La Ricetta Show, which is my wife Tammy, and cooking and all kind of good stuff. You learn how to cook, and you know, and you'll see me in there once or twice. So anyway, again, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next time.